Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As everyone just heard, this meeting is being recorded and will be posted on the town website for people to go back and watch or listen to for future reference as well. I also wanted to point out that we do have a live captioning enabled for this meeting for anybody who is hard of hearing or just likes following along in that way. As we were informally discussing, ask everybody to please identify themselves by their name. And if you're making a comment, also please the street or outside organization that you might represent before you make your comments. So we have that for the public record. Also ask that people turn off their cameras for the times when their agenda item is not under discussion or when they're not speaking, so that the number of moving screens stays consistent, more easily able to follow, and it actually helps with the quality once we finish the recording. And the last thing is, if for whatever reason we get interrupted, we'll just end the meeting. I'll disseminate a new link for us to join. But hopefully with the waiting room enabled, that won't be a problem. Sorry, one last thing is just if you need a clarifying question or you want to make a comment, there's a raise hand function that you can use to indicate that you'd like to make a comment. There's also a chat that functions so that participants can directly chat with myself. So feel free to use the chat function in that way. And with that, Mr. Mayor, I will turn it back over to you.
Okay, thank you. So we will begin with our public comment period. If any resident or guest wishes to ask a question or make a comment, could you please let the town manager know in the chat?
And it doesn't appear that there are any public comments at this time.
Okay, thank you. The next item is approval of the agenda as presented. Is there a motion?
So moved.
I see Barr. Is there a second?
Second.
I see Circo. Is there discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Thank you very much. The next item is to consider approval of adding the Town of Somerset Council as a signatory on an amicus brief for the upcoming case 303 Creative versus Alinas concerning non-discrimination laws in place of public accommodation based on sexual orientation and gender identity. Mr. Town Manager, could you please?
Sure. So this is a case that the mayor had signed onto at the request of I think it was the National Council of Mayors, perhaps. Correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Mayor, but
no, the mayors, I think it's called the Mayors Against LGBTQ Discrimination.
yeah, I apologize. Thank you. But they also thought that if the entire town wanted to sign on, that they would welcome the entire town.
The town council
rather. I did attach the facts of the case for you, and our town attorney has graciously offered to sign us on if the council approves of it pro bono.
Yes, and the town attorney has done this in the past on other cases, and we greatly appreciate it. Council President Circo, do you have any questions?
No questions, thank you.
Councilmember Barr.
No questions.
Thank you. Councilmember Heller, do you have any questions? You're muted.
Sorry, no questions. And Ron, thanks for taking this on for us.
Thank you, Councilmember Kumar.
I feel a little out of the loop, but if this has been discussed with the Borough Council, don't have a clear sense of the background to this and why the council would sign on to something like this. But if we've had a good discussion around it, I don't want to slow us down.
We haven't, there hasn't been a discussion, but you asked a very good question. Could the town attorney please address the question as to why the organization is requesting the council be added as a signatory?
Sure. So the support from the town carries more weight if it's support from the town as a whole, which requires approval by a majority of the council. You know, right now I would just sign on behalf of the mayor, but the organization would prefer support from the entire town, again, just because it carries more weight.
So does that answer your question, Councilmember Kumar?
And this is sort of, I'm just wondering the sort of impact of our support and what that means.
So yeah, the town would be joining as a party essentially to the case, but not incurring any administrative burden or expense because we would just be signing on to the work prepared by the attorneys that are litigating the case. But you'd be joining as a party to show support for the issue.
And wait, so that is, so how would that impact the town as this case moves forward?
It wouldn't, because essentially my work is going to be limited to preparing a signature block, and the other attorneys in the case will be litigating the case. The town wouldn't be involved in the actual litigation. That would be handled by others.
Okay, so by sort of support, we are not in any way involved in either side of this litigation.
Not in the financial aspects, but the town would be joining as a party.
To the lawsuit.
Right. Asking that.
Support the state of Colorado, right?
Well, personally, I would sign this in a heartbeat, but as a representative of the town, I'm not sure we've had sufficient sort of discussion in the town, or the town is aware. The mayor signing on, as we've determined in the past, is a non-issue. But when it's the council, we are kind of representative.
Actually, so
personally, I'm happy to say.
well, that's
but
what,
I think as a
but
council
it's
rep,
not, Mr. Town Attorney, it really is the council signing on, not the town. Right?
No, it would be the town signing on, because let me read exactly the request that we received. Yes, San Francisco is drafting an amicus brief on behalf of local governments and mayors in support of the state of Colorado. So yeah, the ask is that we be one of the local governments that is requesting the relief in the San Francisco amicus brief. So, an amicus brief is basically where someone friendly to one of the sides in the litigation submits oral argument in support of a party in the case. So in this case, San Francisco is supporting the state of Colorado and asking that other local governments join it on the amicus brief.
I guess
Does
I'm
that
saying.
answer your does that answer your question, Councilor?
Yeah, it helps a lot. Thank you. All I'm saying is that personally, I will, this is something I would fully support. And I think adds up in terms of my own personal values. But as a representative of the town, I'm not sure I have a clear read on the liability we might expose ourselves to, and what does that mean as this case moves forward. I don't have a clear read on
I
that.
don't think I'll let the town attorney answer, but I don't think it exposes any liability on behalf of the town.
Well, we
No,
could individually,
I don't think there'd be any liability. Frankly, it's policy making essentially. The council would be establishing a policy position that you agree with the state of Colorado's position and the arguments to be asserted in the amicus brief by the San Francisco City Attorney's Office.
but we would be party to this case. Is that right? As a result of that, or we would not be. That's why I'm just trying to
It's
determine if you're
loosely defined as a party. You're an amicus
Loosely.
party. You're not a party to the litigation. You're not responsible for any judgments that will occur. You're just asserting a position as a friend to the parties in the case. Yes, maybe I shouldn't have used that term party. You'd
Okay.
be an amicus supporter.
Is this
Okay.
clearly a case of not to be able to discriminate? Is that what we're talking about? That's what I read it to be. And if this is a case of non-discrimination, then I think us signing on is a very positive thing. You know, we wouldn't allow that in our community, so I think supporting another community is a good idea.
Okay,
Right, and I
Councilor
think it's
Kumar,
also,
do you have any further questions of the town attorney?
Not
You'll
of
be
the
able to
attorney.
debate this. You'll be able to debate this in a minute, but do you have any specific questions about the case or to the town attorney?
I'm not fully familiar with the case, but in terms of that specific, trying to understand what this means for a town, I think Ron's responses are very helpful. Thank you.
Okay, and maybe it would also be helpful if Ron briefly explained what the issue was in the case.
Oh, well, I'm not able to do that, Mr.
Oh,
Mayor. I haven't had a
okay.
chance to read through.
Okay, I'm sorry. Okay, Councilmember Rovak, do you have any questions?
Questions.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Town Manager, are there any comments or questions from any residents or guests?
I did not receive any comments leading up to the meeting, and nobody's indicated that they wish to make a comment at this time.
Okay, so I will turn this over to the council president to lead the discussion on making a decision on whether the council wishes to support the amicus brief, to sign on to the amicus brief.
all right, so thank you, Mr. Mayor, Manager, and Ron. So from my perspective, this is signing on is just taking an action that is entirely consistent with our support of, LGBTQ month, and our focus on diversity and equity and inclusion in the town of Somerset. So I am prepared to sign on. I guess we go around. Robin, do you have any thoughts, comments?
Yeah, right. So the issue is this company owner who's a kind of wedding planner organization wants to put on her website a statement that because of religious objections, she will not support gay weddings. And the Colorado law bans discrimination by public-facing organizations, which includes this company as many other companies. And so that is the issue. They've lost, the company has lost in court through the appeals court. It's now going to the Supreme Court at this point in time. And San Francisco is organizing then an amicus brief for municipalities in support of it. So that's the background. And yes, it is entirely consistent with our own values as expressed through the Equity and Inclusion Committee, and I thoroughly support our joining this one.
I agree.
So I guess, Debbie,
I
You really-
totally agree. I think it fits us, and I think we should definitely sign on to this.
okay, Kabir, do you have any last questions or comments?
Yeah, I'm just, as I mentioned that this fits with my values. I'm trying to figure out what it means for us to sign onto something like this, especially, and I'm not 100% clear on that. Other than, sounds like it's just sort of a statement. And if
That's it.
that's all there is, well, have we ever made a statement that expresses these values and sort of,
Well, like we do, I mean, we have our own values that we do with our hiring process and just different things like that that don't discriminate. So, I think that if they were to put up a store in our town that was to say we only sell wedding cakes to heterosexual couples, we would have a problem with that. as
no,
a
I agree
town.
with that. I'm just wondering in this case, what does it mean for us to sign on to this case in another state? That's all I'm trying to figure out. Obviously, we would enforce laws that are consistent with our values, but I'm just wondering
Well, the case is before the Supreme Court, so if they
I see.
rule in so it would affect, if they rule against
I see.
the
Okay,
position,
there we
then
go.
it will ultimately affect the whole country.
And Jeffrey, what's the Maryland law on this? Do you have a sense of that, or Montgomery County, just
Well,
out of curiosity?
Well, this is an interpretation of the law. The state of Colorado has the law, and the wedding cake company has lost. That's why they're appealing to the Supreme Court.
Got it. So
They're challenging the law, their law, because they feel that law is not constitutional.
So there's a risk of a Supreme Court ruling that might impose a certain direction on how this would work that could trickle down
Yeah,
the
this is
county
gonna
and
be a
local
major-
level.
This is considered to be
Okay.
a
Well,
major
that
case.
totally makes sense, and I fully
Next
support
Supreme
that.
Court. And
Yeah.
that's why the organization, not only having mayors, they want to have town
Makes sense.
government sign on.
That makes sense. Thank you. I was sorry I was out of the loop on this one. I appreciate it.
No, you asked, I think it's important.
Good
Those are excellent questions. And this is the last time that I signed on to a case that the town attorney did it pro bono, the organization didn't ask specifically for town councils. This time they did. That's why I passed it on, because it
Great.
makes the amicus brief more powerful.
Makes sense.
So is there any further discussion? If not, is anyone prepared to make a motion?
There was one resident did indicate that they had a comment. I don't know if the moment has passed or not, but just wanted to let you know.
I think it was Mr. Vaswani.
Well, it's up to the council whether you want, to, because we moved on. But Mr. Town Attorney, doesn't the council have to vote?
Yes, yeah, the council should approve signing on as an amicus.
No. But doesn't at this point the council have to vote whether they want to hear from the any more residents? Or is that only in a hearing?
Yeah, that. let's see what-
Since we're not in a
What
hearing,
the agenda says.
I
The council can allow
okay, so
comments, but you could
would the
just, you could
council,
adopt.
would the council like to open it up for further public comment?
Yes, I would.
Okay,
I would
Mr.
think.
Town
I think public
Manager,
participation is excellent.
could you call on the resident who wants to make a comment?
Yes, Mr. Vaswani, the floor is yours.
Or
Yes,
Mr.
thank you.
Chair, Mr. Chair.
I actually didn't mean to take up the
And
council's.
tell us your street, please, Mr.
Oh,
Chair.
Kumar Vaswani, Trent Street. This is a pretty important case. I was just looking online and I've been reading about it sort of off and on for the last couple of weeks because there's this perception out there that the Supreme Court has a hard right majority that is now going to start taking away people's rights. And I think that this case has a lot of implications. The headline in slate.com says the alarming legal strategy behind a Supreme Court case that could undo decades of civil rights protections. And there's a fear out there that this could just be part of a wave of removing protections for things like interracial marriage or, you know, any other type of LGBTQ rights or anti-discrimination laws. So I think it is a pretty important case. And that's all I have to say. Thanks.
Okay, thank you very much. Council, are you prepared to make a motion?
Yes. I move that the town of Somerset sign on an amicus brief for the upcoming case 303 Creative versus Alliance concerning non-discrimination laws in places of public accommodation based on sexual orientation and gender identity.
Second.
Second.
Okay, I heard Heller first. Is there discussion, further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? I think that was unanimous.
Excellent.
Okay, thank you. The next item is a public hearing for case number 22-7-1-AD. So we will begin. Today is July 5th, 2022. This is a hearing before the Town of Somerset Council for building permit application 2271AD to consider approval of the construction of rear additions and deck to the single-family home located at 4716 Essex Avenue. The owner of the property, Jeffrey Nussbaum, is represented by Kellen Vogan of Case Design Remodeling, who has submitted the application on the applicant's behalf. This hearing is being audio recorded. We ask that all speakers speak one at a time, addressing the council when called upon, and to state their name and address for the record before making public comment. The hearing will observe the following order. First, the Somerset Town staff will present their findings and submit for the record a report on the application under consideration. Next, the applicant will present their application. Following that, the town council will have the opportunity to ask questions of the applicant or staff relevant to the application at hand. Then other interested parties will have the opportunity to ask questions of the applicant or present comments to the council. Following that, the applicant will have the opportunity for rebuttal testimony, after which the public comment period of the hearing shall be completed and the record closed. Finally, the council will deliberate and discuss among themselves the merits of the case, the findings of fact and conclusions as presented at this hearing. The council may make a motion on a permit decision. If there is a formal objection to the application's approval, the town attorney will be asked to write a decision. If a permit is granted, the town manager will be asked to issue a permit with the conditions voted upon by the council. We now begin this hearing. Mr. Town Manager, for the presentation of staff findings and reports.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Let's see, bear with me one moment. My apologies. So the applicant, as the mayor mentioned, is proposing to construct additions to the rear of the property. And the existing house is actually non-conforming on the side setbacks, but the proposed additions are offset from the existing walls and so therefore do not require a variance. The walls of the proposed additions are 9 feet on one side and 10.5 feet on the other side from the property lines on the sides. And as a reminder, the Somerset Code requires that one side be at least 8 feet and both sides total 18 feet. So therefore, the proposed additions to the rear do conform with the town's side setbacks. And I just made the note for you that even though it's an addition on the additions on the rear of the house, that they're nowhere near the rear setback area. And also because the total square footage of the addition is under 400 square feet, the county doesn't require a drainage plan for the work. So anything under 400 square feet, the county does not consider the area of disturbance so large as to require a drainage plan. The one note I did have is that the proposed site plan includes a dumpster that's within the tree protection of one of the trees on site. So when the council is considering the application, they may consider a motion that just stipulates that the placement of any structures do comply with the tree protection plan as recommended by the town arborist. I don't think that would impede the project from taking place. So that's sort of the overall summary, but I'm happy to turn it over to our building administrator and town arborist as well for their reports. So Doug, take it away.
Good evening. The only couple things I wanted to add to what Matt just said is the county did issue their permit on June 22nd. And that I recommend the council approve the demolition permit, the building permit, and the dumpster permit for 4716 Essex with the condition that a certified wall check survey be provided. And that concludes my report.
And Dr. Feather, I think I saw that you're with us as well.
Yeah, I'm here, Matt. So the tree protection plan looks kind of strange because there's fences along the property line and go down where the driveway is, the edge of the driveway. So when I was over there looking at this, the dumpster was actually in the driveway. They had a dumpster in the driveway where one of the parking places were. So I don't know if they're going to take these front fences down or not, but that, and I cited the trees best I could. They weren't cited on the plan. So there's some leeway there, but Matt's right. The dumpster, I don't think the dumpster can go there anyway unless they take down a fence. So, but you can make a stipulation that, you know, the tree protection is adhered to. That's all I have, Matt.
Thanks, Tolbert.
That completes the town's?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, that concludes the staff report, but happy to answer questions
Thank
that
you.
the council may have.
Okay, Mr. Vogan, Mr. Nussbaum, welcome. And now's your opportunity to either briefly present the application or comment on the staff report.
Okay, good evening, everybody. To the fences that was just brought up, we did plan on leaving them. I think Jeff in the future is going to replace them, but it's not part of our work. So the fences would stay in place. The location of the dumpster, that's flexible. We can always move it if it's too close to the tree line. Also wanted to comment that on our Montgomery County permit, we have planned on drainage, dry well in the back, hard pipe to the new addition. So we are covering all that water as part of our plan. I think it was close. It was the square footages were close, so we just erred on the side of caution.
Is that all you wanted to say?
Yeah, that's it, unless I missed something, but yes.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Nussbaum.
Sure, I don't have anything to add except to what Kelly said, and just to say thank you guys for the work and consideration. And many of you know me, and I know many of you. And one of the things that was key to me in planning this addition was in part to modernize a home that hadn't been touched in 70 years, but to do so in a way that was consistent with the original design and consistent with the neighborhood. And so I think, you know, the fact that this won't change the home's profile from the street, that it's modest, I hope meets with everyone's approval, because for me, that's always been one of the goals and one of the ways of expressing how much I enjoy what Somerset is. is to not to change its character, even as the needs of the house evolve a little bit.
Okay, thank you so much. Council President Circo, do you have any questions?
No question. I want to thank folks for considering stormwater management. And I appreciate the
Well,
approach.
Steve, as you know, that's big for me too, so.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Barr, do you have any questions?
Yes, I had kind of the same reaction to Steve. I was going to ask you whether you had looked at stormwater management, but you have done, so thank you very much. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Heller.
It was interesting because I want to echo about the drainage, is that when I read the report, that was in my notes were drainage. You know, why can't we do something? And so thank you so much for actually being proactive about that. I really appreciate that. And I also want to tell you, Mr. Vogan, that in 1991, I think, Case did my house too.
Hopefully it was a good experience, hopefully.
I got a great house.
Okay.
Thank
awesome.
you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Kumar, do you have any questions?
No questions for me for the applicant. I had a question for Matt. Matt, in the pre-construction meeting, did we cover the guidance on fencing and dumpster placement and those kinds of issues?
Doug might be able to respond to that a little bit in better detail than I can. Doug, did you catch that question?
Yeah, typically the pre-construction meeting takes place after the permit's been issued, and Tolbert, either Wayne Fowler or I will meet with the applicant and the contractors and go over parking, tree protection, hours of work, different things to try to make everything go smoothly as possible. So that takes place just before they start work, right after we issue the permit.
Okay, so you covered those issues. I just wanted to make sure that they were covered in the pre-construction meeting. Is that a yes?
Yeah, we'll make sure that we just touch base with Jeff and Kelly and the team to make sure everything's all copacetic.
Thank you.
Councilor Rovak, do you have any questions?
I have no questions.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Town Manager, has any resident or guest indicated they wish to comment or ask a question about this application?
No, Mr. Mayor, there are no
Okay,
comments.
Thank you. Council President Circo, now is your opportunity to lead the discussion and conclusion on this application.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. From my perspective, this is this renovation is indeed modest and fits the character of the town and takes appropriate consideration for stormwater management, even when not necessarily required. So I personally support it, and I'll be curious to hear what other folks think. We'll just go in a different order. Debbie.
I totally support this. I love that it's a renovation and that it's keeping in character. That's really, I think that's really great. So thank you. Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you, Debbie. Kabir.
I support it because it's in compliance with the code. And it's, we don't have a choice here. We support it because it's compliant with the code and there's no variance being sought. And do appreciate the thoughtfulness on stormwater mitigation, given how close to the limit it is.
Right, thank you. Shannon?
I agree that I think that it's nice to have a renovation that is goes with the character and also complies with the stormwater management. So I agree.
Great. And Robin, last but not least. Right. I mean, I'm clearly going to approve this one. The only thing is to make sure that you do place the dumpster appropriately, and that you follow the tree protection plan that Tolbert outlined. But other than that, I'm absolutely happy with it.
Great.
Okay, so council, are you prepared to make a motion?
Yes, did we ask for, receive any comments from residents?
Yeah. We already
Okay,
did.
sorry, I just missed that. Okay, great.
No comments, sorry.
Thank you. I move that the council approve building permit application number 22-7-1-AD, submitted by Kelly Vogan of Case Design Remodeling on behalf of Jeffrey Nussbaum for the construction of a rear addition to the existing home located at 4716 Essex Avenue.
So, okay, so I
And-
saw
and
a
we had a-
second,
and
but I wanted to
wall check.
ask,
And wall check.
does that motion take into account what Councilor Barr was talking about?
Yeah, could we just add to it, Steve, that the dumpster be placed in an area of the yard consistent with the tree protection plan that Dr. Feather has outlined?
Absolutely. Friendly amendment
Add that.
accepted.
So before Councilmember Kumar seconds it, Mr. Town Attorney, is that motion legally and technically sufficient?
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Okay, so the motion's been made and seconded. Is there discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? That passed unanimously. Thank you very much. Congratulations. The next item is hearing on case number 2272AD for 5522 Effingham. We'll begin. Today is July 5th, 2022. This is a hearing before the Town of Somerset Council for building permit application 2272AD to consider approval of the construction of rear to the single-family home located at 5522 Uppingham Street. The owners of the property, Jeffrey Buteau and Amy Bonizzi, I hope I pronounced that right, are represented by Michael P. Rouse of MPR Architecture, who has submitted the application on the applicant's behalf. This hearing is being audio recorded. We ask that all speakers speak one at a time, addressing the council when called upon, and to state their name and address for the record before making public comment. The hearing will observe the following order. First, the Somerset staff will present their findings and submit for the record a report on the application. Then the applicant will present their application. Following that, the town council will have the opportunity to ask questions of the applicant or staff relevant to the application. Then other interested parties will have the opportunity to ask questions of the applicant or present comments. Then the applicant will have the opportunity for rebuttal testimony, after which the public comment period shall be completed and the record closed. Then the council will deliberate and discuss among themselves the merits of the case, the findings of fact and conclusions as presented at the hearing. The council may make a motion on a permit decision. If there's a formal objection to the application's approval, the town attorney will be asked to write a decision. If a permit is granted, the town manager will be asked to issue a permit with the conditions voted upon by the council. We now will begin with the staff report, Mr. Town Manager.
Sorry, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just did want to note, I'm not sure if the applicant is here right now. If I'm mistaken, I don't see the resident's name and I don't see Michael Rouse's name either. So with that in mind, I don't know if you would like to continue with the hearing or wait until they're able to arrive.
Is there a way that you can?
Yeah, I was going to try to text the applicant and try to get a response and see
So
if maybe they're having issues with logging in.
I see the time is 7:41 and the hearing was scheduled to start at 7:35.
Yeah.
So let's, is the applicant for the next case present?
Yes. Our third hearing, I think everybody's represented from that.
Okay, and we are within the 20-minute window. So let's go to the next case. And hopefully you'll hear from the other applicant.
Yeah.
So now we are going to turn to the application for 5613 Warwick Place. And let me get my script here. Okay. Today is July 5th, 2022. This is a hearing before the Town of Somerset Council for building permit application 2271 NC to consider approval of the construction of second and third story additions to the existing house on the property located at 5613 Warwick Place. The applicant sought and were granted approval for 5 variances at the May 2nd, 2022 Town Council hearing. The owners of the property, Danielle Bremer Wardig and Rebecca Lamadrid, have submitted the application. This hearing is being audio recorded. We ask that all speakers speak one at a time, addressing the council when called upon, and to state their name and address for the record before making public comment. The hearing will observe the following order. The town staff will present their findings and submit for the record a report on the application. Then the applicant will present the application. The town council will have the opportunity to ask questions of the applicant or staff relevant to the application. Then other interested parties will have the opportunity to ask questions of the applicant or present comments to the council. Then the applicant, if necessary, will have the opportunity for rebuttal testimony. Then the public comment period shall be completed and the record closed. Then the council will deliberate and discuss among themselves the merits of the case, the findings of fact and conclusions as presented. The council may make a motion on a permit decision. If there's a formal objection, the town attorney will be asked to write a decision. If the permit is granted, the town manager will be asked to issue a permit with the conditions voted on by the council. We now begin with the presentation of the staff, Mr. Town Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As the mayor mentioned, and just as a reminder to everybody, this address might seem familiar. You're not experiencing Groundhog Day, though. The applicant sought and received 5 variances from the council at the May meeting. Essentially, they wanted to get a sense whether the town would approve of the plans before they submitted to Montgomery County, which, because of their setback requirements, did not require a variance. The county doesn't require variances for existing non-conforming, is sort of the essence of it. Again, the council did grant the variance. So I did include the variance decision for your reference, and the proposed plans are unchanged from those that came before the council for review. I did want to note for the council that the proposed plans show an additional HVAC unit in the side setback, which would not comply with the town code, but the applicant indicated and confirmed actually today that they're able to move the AC unit to the rear of the house and bring it into compliance. There was also the issue of the wall permit and tree removals, which came before the council last month, but which are a separate part, a separate question of these applications. I just suggested that as the council's considering the permit application, 2 things to keep in mind were just ensuring that the construction and installation of the HVAC unit is moved to the rear of the house as agreed upon, and not on the side of the house as shown on the site plan, and that any tree protection recommended by the town arborist be complied with as well. And with that, I will turn it over to Mr. Lohmeyer for his report.
I really don't have anything to add on this one either. I do recommend that they provide a wall check when the improvements are completed to make sure that it does comply with the variance in the building permit. And like Matt said, that they relocate the HVAC unit on a site plan to the rear. And with that, I conclude my report. I recommend the council approve the demolition permit, building permit, and HV permit for the improvements at 5613 Warwick Place.
And Dr. Feather, I think you're still with us.
Yeah, Matt. All I did, I underlaid with the new drawing, the old tree protection plan. And the only thing I added was some tree protection in back for a neighbor's tulip poplar. It's over 30 inches. So a fence needs to go up there, and no super silk fence there. Use sediment control logs instead. And that's all I have.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Town Manager. Does that conclude the staff report?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So now, Mr. Bremer, Wardig, and Ms. Lamadrid, welcome again. Now is your opportunity to either briefly present your application or to comment on the staff report.
Yes, so joining us today, well, first of all, thank you for hearing us again. I don't know who's going to miss more, who's going to miss each other more, you guys, us, or us, you guys. It's been 3 months in a row now. We'll come back for updates if you want to include us on the agenda once we get started. But joining us as well today, council members and mayor and town staff, we have Sandra Zabrowski from Four Brothers Construction, as well as Edwin Andino, who've been working on this project. So they'll also be answering any questions that the council might have for us. I don't think that we have too much to add at this point. We're excited that this is moving forward, and as we've expressed to many of you in person when we've had the opportunity to run into, we really appreciate all the work that has gone into all of this from the side of the council, and your care for our community is worthy of notice and recognition, and so thank you.
So you're ready to take questions.
Well, I'll say, Sandra, Edwin, is there anything that you'd like to add in response to the staff plan, the staff report?
Sure thing. I just wanted to go through the
Mayor.
bullet points really quick. So first of all, thank you for allowing us to present again. This is the same project that we previously reviewed. So this is the third time in front of the town council. This permit itself is just for a second story addition, as seen in the previous package. It's intended to allow the clients to build a modest addition to allow them to grow into the space in the neighborhood that they love. We also included in the building permit the installation of a new outdoor AC unit, which is shown on below the proposed retaining wall. I sent those plans over to Matthew and Doug earlier today. We were just waiting on confirmation from our HVAC contractor to make sure that we could have the lines that could extend that far. But we did move it within the town setback, so it should comply with the town code now. And we also noted on the plans that the AC unit will comply with the applicable ordinances from the town and Montgomery County regarding sound levels. We're also proposing a small balcony on the rear of the house, which is shown in the previous application, and it's also in compliance with the town setbacks. There is one minor unresolved issue that we wanted to ask for guidance from the town, and that's on the logistics of dumpster on site. Given that in the last application we had before the town council, we had to make changes to make sure that there wouldn't be any heavy equipment in the driveway. we'd like some guidance from you all as to where we can place a dumpster since there isn't enough space to fit one on site. Ideally, we could place one in the street directly across from the property, but we welcome any ideas and suggestions as to how we could handle the removal of construction debris and trash. And I think that's about it for us. So thank you again.
Okay, and that concludes to
Yes.
the applicants, that concludes your presentation, right?
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Council President Circo, do you have any questions?
No question about what's directly before us, but I'm just curious about the soil wall, sorry, I'm looking at the description. The wall permit going behind the house is why that is not included in this.
And you're asking that to whom?
I guess to the engineer, I mean, wouldn't you want to have the entire package together, or is there an outstanding issue? I just don't understand.
So, hi, this is Sandra Zabrowski from Four Brothers. I'll just jump in and take that. So, one of the reasons why we separated out the project is because that retaining wall had to be done no matter what. So
Okay.
we wanted to make sure that they were able to do it in case there was an issue with getting a variance or some unforeseeable thing. So we wanted to do it, and we also wanted to get it done as quickly as possible because it needed to be done prior to starting construction.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for refreshing my memory. I have no further questions.
Okay, thank you. Council Member Barr, do you have any questions?
I don't know whether this question is directed to Doug Lohmeyer or to the builders, but Doug actually went back to MCDPS, and they determined that more than, I think it's 100 cubic yards of earth were being moved. And so it may be, and the term is maybe, that a sediment control permit is required. And what I'm trying to find out is what's the status of that now?
The
The
county, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, please.
When I talked to the county last week, they were looking into it to determine whether a sediment control permit was needed. I did talk to the contractor or sent him an email, I guess, over the weekend, and he was looking into it also. So it's, as far as I know, it's still pending, and the county or the contractor have not finalized anything yet.
Okay, thank you. No additional questions.
Councilmember Heller.
My question is about the dumpster, and is how have we handled this situation in the past when you can't put a dumpster in a driveway? And I don't understand why we can't put a dumpster in the driveway, but I guess that's two questions. Why can't we put the dumpster in the driveway? And if we can't, how have we handled this with other homes that have needed dumpsters and you can't park in front of your house? Like if I needed a dumpster, I could put it right in front of my house, in the parking spots. But, so what has the town done before?
So your question is to the town attorney or to Matt or to Doug?
I guess it was really to Matt, what have we done with the dumpsters before? Clearly, people have had dumpsters, we
Or-
can't put them in the driveway.
Why can't it go in the driveway?
Yeah, that's the question, part of the question.
So, as I recall, and correct me, Edwin or Doug or Ron may be able to chime in, but I think that one of the comments at the hearing in the May meeting from the neighbor had to do with a tree on their property. Is that right? That
May I jump in just briefly?
of
So
course,
the-
absolutely.
yeah.
Yes. I'm sorry.
So
Sorry
this-
for misrepresenting.
That's fine. That's fine. So May, we did variances. June, we did retention walls and tree removals. And so the concern in June came from our neighbors, the Laskys, and where they had I guess, some experience setting down heavy equipment on their driveway, and their driveway just being severely damaged by this equipment. And so they wrote the council and attended the meeting and shared that experience with them. And so a limitation was set in terms of what type of equipment could be used and set on the driveway. And I guess the concern from the last case specifically is because of how the properties are, or how they are, I guess.
Situated?
Yeah, so there was a retaining wall between our property and theirs because their property lies lower than ours. And so the concern, I'm assuming, is that if there's something happens to a carport, that it might damage the retaining wall that we share and therefore impact their property. Now,
The retaining wall, sorry, just to make it, the retaining wall is in our property, but if it does fail, it will go into their property, into their front yard.
the garden.
Right.
So it's not their actual home or our actual home, but kind of a retaining wall holding up our driveway, separating our two properties. And that's where that comes from.
Thanks for clarifying.
So what do we do?
So
Hold on, Councilor Rovak, you'll have a chance. So who's going to answer Councilor Heller's question?
Well, perhaps the town attorney could also help us, but I think currently in the town code, we do not permit dumpsters to be held in the street. And so I think the applicant is asking for guidance from us on if we're not going to allow them to put it in the dumpster, excuse me, we're not going to allow them to put it in the street, and if we're not going to let them put it in their driveway, where would we, if we could give them some guidance on where it could be placed.
Right. Dumpsters in the street commonly scar the street, and then the street requires repair. Even when dumpsters are on private property, sometimes the right-of-way gets scarred as the dumpsters are rolled on and off the trucks. So we require a bond to cover repairs to the right-of-way. If the dumpster's not going to be allowed on the driveway, then the applicants need to find another spot for it. Maybe they can explain why the front yard's also not possible. I mean, I have seen in other instances dump trucks be used where dumpsters cannot be used, and things are hauled away immediately, but that adds more traffic and potentially more expense for the applicants.
So can I answer that question? So the assumption was exactly what you mentioned now, that if we were to place a dumpster in the front yard, it would scar or crack the apron in the public way, and that's what we're trying to avoid here. So I figured that the easiest way would be to just allow it in the street across from the property, but we're looking to you guys for guidance on that.
Also, the front yard, Edwin, sorry, if you want to, share that the front yard was explored, but there's the space is limited, and I believe that the site plan has contemplated the potential porta potty and then and a potential storage area, staging storage area.
That's correct. So if you were to see the site plan that we submitted with the application, you can see that we have a location for the portable toilet screened on 3 sides and a potential material stockpile area in the front yard. And aside from that, everything is taken in the front yard. So it's pretty tight as it is. And I don't know that we would actually be able to fit one. And I think that, again, the concern is that we would end up damaging some of the concrete apron or something in the public space. And we're trying to avoid that issue entirely.
Do they not make smaller dumpsters? They only make those real big guys. They don't have like smaller ones, and you could bring in a small guy and take it away more often. That's silly.
Can Edwin, I don't, so 2 things for the council. So one of our neighbors has already expressed or what her point, Alice Acosta, had been asking us about the parking plan. So I would just take into consideration that that a dumpster in the street would probably cause problems with other neighbors who have not expressed their concerns before. So just wanted to put that out there that could be a complicated solution as well. My questions would be more technical, Edwin, to you. I mean, is there some type of protection that can be, not like boards or something that can help distribute the weight of the dumpster? Or what's the weight of a dumpster? Does it qualify as heavy equipment? You know, the demolition that we're doing is a lot of drywall and things of that nature. So that but again, this is not my area of expertise. It's a question for you and Sandra.
And I think that's correct. We could potentially do smaller pools if the town is okay with that. Just more frequent dumpster pools. That way it's not getting full. If you guys are okay with that, we could modify the notes on the plans to allow a dumpster on the driveway. I just didn't know, since it was a stipulation from the last permit application for the landscaping stuff, that I didn't want to basically overstep our boundaries there.
Well, Councilmember Heller, has your question, do you have further questions about this?
No, I was just wondering, Edwin, were you saying that there are smaller dumpsters, or that you would bring in a big guy and just take it away more often? So it wouldn't get.
There are smaller dumpsters, but the footprint of the smaller dumpsters are essentially the same as the larger ones. They're kind of just taller, the larger ones. So it'd essentially be the same footprint, but we could do a smaller dumpster with more frequent dumpster pulls and just not allow it to get completely full. Again, it's kind of the stipulation about heavy equipment is kind of vague, and we don't really have a specific number on that. And we were just assuming that a full dumpster would kind of qualify for what the neighbor was requiring us to pull it more frequently or something.
My question about the dumpster too is that, if I remember correctly, and I did a major house renovation, that the dumpster doesn't stay for long. You know, you kind of take it all down, you put it in the dumpster and you go. This isn't months, this is probably weeks. Am I right about that?
Yeah, that's correct.
I think if this is only weeks, then I don't know why we don't allow it to go into the street. If they can't put it in the driveway, then put it in the street. And they have to give a bond anyway. If they mess up the street, they're gonna have to pay for it.
Yeah, and another thing to balance, Councilmember Heller, is that more dumpster pools would mean more traffic and more opportunities for damage.
Yeah, well, I'd go for a smaller dumpster in the driveway.
Well, you'll have the chance to discuss that.
I'm done. Thank you.
Do you have any? Okay, thank you. Councilmember Kumar, do you have any questions?
Jeffrey, will you be kind enough to come back to me and go to Shannon first?
Sure. Councilmember Rovak, do you have any questions?
Well, so I guess my question is, you know, with the last variance that we were talking about with the neighbors not wanting this heavy machinery like going around and stuff, like I viewed that as like moving tractors and, you know, the cranes and things like that, that kind of go all around. Like I didn't really consider a dumpster to be that heavy machinery. Is it considered to be like that? A dumpster? Does anyone know?
So your
That
question is to the applicant.
Maybe to Edwin?
I don't know if it would qualify or not. That's why we're kind of in a gray area here. The comment came from the adjacent neighbor, and we're kind of just trying to acquiesce to their request
But
here.
that was like for heavy machinery, right?
Right, but the logic behind it is that it would get, if it were a full dumpster, that it would be roughly the same weight as, they didn't even want like a box truck or something like that. They didn't want even contractors parking in the driveway. So we're just trying to make sure that we
Oh, they don't even
avoid
want
that
extra
issue at
cars
all.
in the driveway?
I believe that's what their comment was.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, I guess that I guess it doesn't matter what I think. I guess this is my time to ask for questions. So okay. The other question I have is, I can't remember. So I know that the retaining wall and everything is kind of set up, but are there other stormwater management issues that are here that need to be addressed?
Is that question to us?
Yeah.
So the site plan that the landscape architect presented last month included the downspouts routed down to the rear area, and it has kind of like a gravel wash area, a temporary one. And then when we're done with construction, it will be made into a permanent one. So whatever was included in that package is shown in this package as well, just for clarity's sake. It separates the two scopes of work out from their stuff versus our stuff because we're two separate companies, but it is shown here, so it's all consolidated in one set. And the only thing that I included additionally in this package is silt fences in the front yard, because the tree protection essentially would be the same.
And I'll just add that this project started 3 years ago, really, and we had already started thinking about stormwater management solutions that are now actually being discussed in the town council. So we have some rain barrels and trying to manage, managing most of the water on site, and there's a concept of rain gardens and other things that were in kind of landscaping plans that we had been working on. So it's all being considered in part of the plan.
Okay, I don't have any other questions.
Okay, thank you. Now we will go back to Councilmember Kumar.
Thank you. Matt, I just want to, thank Matt and his team for shepherding this application over multiple months. And I also thank the applicants. And I encourage them, once the building process is over, to consider giving us all collective feedback on how to improve this process, since you've gone through, a number of complicated things here. And so we would welcome ways to improve this. It will have to be after the permit period is over. I have a question to Matt on process. Once again, did we cover the HVAC location and it sounds, I had the dumpster question, but sounds like the dumpster is a sort of set of peculiarities there. But on the HVAC location, did we cover that in the pre-construction meeting?
So
Because that's a very standard.
Yeah, and that was, so we have right now, we have a formal pre-construction meeting for new construction. So we don't have quite the same level of formal sit-down meeting for additions, but Doug and especially Edwin, but really the entire team have been in communication over the last several months, and the HVAC was communicated, and Edwin was going back to his team to figure out, okay, is the area that Doug is recommending.
I got that. Okay, so the key thing is that we don't have a pre-construction meeting for additions. So that's something for us to revisit in a work session. Ron, I have a question for you. We often say subject to wall check. In fact, every time we say subject to wall check. Is there a way for us to codify that so we don't need to say it each time, because we clearly need it each time?
Yeah, certainly. That could be added to the code as a standard requirement.
Okay, great. Thank you. Those are my questions. Thank you, Jeffrey.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Town Manager, has any resident or guest indicated they wish to ask a question or?
No, Mr. Mayor. Nope.
Okay, thank you. And now I will turn it over to Council President Circo to lead the discussion, and then I will ask for a motion.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. As noted, this is a return on this subject. I think we've discussed it at length and have appreciated the approach taken by the applicants. I don't have any issues with their proposed, with formalizing the proposed path forward. We'll go around in a different direction. Robin, do you have any questions, comments?
A good comment. I think we're going to have to allow the dumpster on the driveway as the least worst alternative. But add to that the owners here pay for any damage that the dumpster causes, both on their own property and on their neighbor's property, should it cause any damage. And I think that's as much of a solution as we can come up with. Other than that, it's been a long process, I know, and I hope it is now coming to an end. All right.
Thank you, Robin. Shannon?
Now their fun is just getting started, so.
Oh my gosh, yes.
No, I think that, I don't think that we should allow for the dumpster to be put on the street. And I do think that we should recommend that they try to haul away as they're going. You know, I don't know if the construction company has a vehicle or whatever like that, that they can do that. But I know with the kitchen stuff that I'm doing, they just, you know, took it all in a truck and took it away like that same day. And so if there's an opportunity for that, that we should explore that. And either then having it on the grass or on their driveway, but I don't think that we want to put it on the street, because then, you know, what happens when two more neighbors do a construction project and Warwick's full of dumpsters, because they all kind of have that situation on, it's a, you know, tricky street. So that's my feelings.
Thank you, Shannon. Debbie?
I think that we should allow this dumpster on the driveway. Shannon, having done both a kitchen 6 years ago and a whole house like 25 years ago, I know that you can't do a takeaway in a day of a whole house, demolish. You can for a kitchen, because that is exactly what I did 6 years ago. We just hauled it all away in a day. So I think the dumpster has to go on the driveway, but I'm uncomfortable by something else. I'm uncomfortable by neighbors dictating what goes in people's driveways. I think that's very slippery slope and dangerous. You know, it's one thing if what's going on in the driveway is inappropriate, but a dumpster I don't think is an inappropriate thing for a driveway. And so I'm a little uncomfortable with neighbors ruling. I know it's uncomfortable to have construction done near you. It is uncomfortable, but it's like, what can we do? So I think we need to approve this as is and go on.
Right. Thank you, Debbie. I agree with you about putting the dumpster in the driveway. Kabir?
I'm in support moving forward with this application. And in terms of the dumpster question, admittedly, I feel ill-equipped to guide. If the technicians don't know what to say, I don't know what to say. I can speak from my personal experience, which is that we did do what Shannon described. When we did our major renovation, we had a truck come and haul it away effectively on a daily basis. And part of the reason that worked out on the whole is because we are very close to the River Road exit. So to Ron's point, we were not traveling large distances in town. It was a quick exit. You're effectively close to town exit on Wisconsin Avenue. So, I'm mildly concerned. I would not want to put the burden on you to pick up costs of something happening in the neighbor's property, because that too is a slippery slope. I don't know what that would look like. And I just don't think we should, be anywhere in a situation that might create conflict between neighbors. So I'm in favor of moving forward. I don't feel equipped to provide guidance exactly on where the dumpster would go. I do think that it's possible to haul it out on a high frequency, because I have myself experienced that, and given your location, it might, be not as troublesome as Ron was, intimating, which is if it's sort of deep inside town, you're traveling long distances, a lot could go wrong. But since you're closer to the exit, it might not be a big deal. Sorry for an imperfect answer there, but that's where I am. But I'm fully supportive moving forward with the application.
Thank you very much, Kabir. So
So it sounds like is anyone ready to make a motion?
Make a motion. Make a motion that we accept this, approve this permit for, I don't know what address, I'm so sorry. 5613 Warwick. And that we accept, and this is not a good motion. I'm not good at this, but Ron, maybe you can clean me up.
No, Don't
I'm not, okay,
criticize yourself.
not criticizing myself.
Go,
It's just,
go
okay,
forward with it.
I'm perfect. Ryan, now would you clean me up?
Sure, I would suggest with the following conditions: compliance with the tree protection plan
Mhm.
recommended by the town arborist, with the condition that a wall check survey be provided as recommended by the building permit administrator, that construction be completed in compliance with the approved variance, that a sediment control permit be issued by the county if required by the county, that the HVAC units be relocated as represented at today's hearing. And then with respect to the dumpster, I would suggest that you include in your motion one of the alternatives that we discussed. One, that it's allowed in the driveway, period. Two, that it's allowed in the driveway, but at a half size. Or three, that it's allowed in the driveway, but that more pools are done, and the pools would be done at 75% full or 55% full, whatever you would want to include in that motion.
So Councilmember Heller, is that the last one, Mr. Town Attorney?
It's everything
Yes,
Ron
Mr. Mayor.
said.
Okay, so it's
But-
up to you to decide which option for the dumpster.
In my motion, I just say that we approve a dumpster in the driveway and that we rely on the builder to make the right decision when to pull it out. And if there's damage, they have to pay for it. That's the way I'd like to leave it.
Okay, is that legally and technically sufficient, Mr.?
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Is there a second to Councilmember Heller? I see Council President Circo. Is there discussion on the motion?
I'm just,
Go ahead.
so I think that the problem with the dumpster of like being a huge size was that it's unique to their lot and to their neighbors because of this, like, because of the Warwick Street and like where their driveway falls with like, with the stairs that go down in between their houses. And there was like big concern about shifting of that earth there of like this heavy stuff is why this, why the Laskys objected to the heavy machinery, because they've been involved with, having complications with that in the past. So it's not just like, oh, I prefer not to have a dumpster next door to me. It was more about, I'm concerned about the land and what that, what it looks like to have this kind of machinery, I guess, if that's considered what this heavy machinery is. Now, whether or not that is considered heavy machinery, I don't know. It sounds like it might be. And so I would recommend that we, either, I think that we should probably recommend a smaller dumpster filled at like a smaller size.
So so are you speaking in favor of the motion or did you want to make an amendment?
Let's see something.
I don't know.
Well, we will have to vote on it, right? Or can the amendment can be made now. Correct.
could
Yeah,
I-
yeah,
Well,
yeah.
I'm asking Councilor Roback if she's speaking in favor of the motion as seconded, or does she wish to make an amendment?
I think that I wish to make an amendment that is to amend to approval of a smaller dumpster.
Okay, Mr.
So
Town
option B,
Attorney, is
option B.
that legally and technically sufficient?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, and the movant, Councilmember Heller, would need to decide whether that's a friendly amendment or whether we need to have the council vote on that amendment to the original motion.
Okay, do you accept that as a friendly amendment, Councilmember Heller?
No. Because I don't think it's
Okay,
friendly.
so if you don't accept it, is that motion legally and technically sufficient for a second, Mr. Town Attorney?
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Does anyone wish to second Councilor Roback's motion?
I second.
Okay, so now there's discussion on the amendment to the motion.
Okay,
Councilmember
maybe I
Barr.
could say something now. The idea behind having the owners pay for any damage caused by the dumpster there was to put pressure on the contractors, on the owner to take care in placing the dumpster use lighter loads, spread the weight underneath because they know they will have to pay for any damage that's caused. So I thought that was why I thought that if we do that, it is the least worst alternative. It is keeping pressure on them to do the lightest loads and manage it as best they can manage it, because the costs come back to them if they don't manage it. And that's why I supported Debbie's original motion, which did say that they in fact will incur the costs. So I think that's it. And Kabir, I have to say that I live close to where the two of them live. We are not near an exit to the town. The shortest exit from Warwick to Wisconsin goes through the intersection where the school kids go. Now, the wrong time of day, that's a disaster. And if you go the other way, you have a drive through most of the town to get out. So really it is not an easy exit, unlike your home, which is an easy exit. So, all right.
Okay, is there further discussion on the amendment to the motion?
I do. I just think we need to stay out of the dumpster business in terms of dictating what goes in somebody's driveway. And I strongly suggest that we vote for my motion and not Shannon's motion, not her friendly motion.
Okay, is there,
And
it wasn't a friendly motion. It wasn't a friendly amendment.
Okay, our
Just to
unfriendly motion.
Do you want to
clarify,
say something,
Debbie.
Councilor Kumar?
Yeah, just a question for Debbie. You're saying your motion was dumpster, no size determination, and then up to and any damages to be incurred by the applicant.
Basically, but I said it nicer. I
You
would,
said-
it was that
Yeah.
I would hope that both, the builder and the owners will work hard to do the right thing here. And if not, put it bluntly, they're gonna pay for it. And, I just think, they will work hard to do the right thing, and that's what I would hope for.
And
And
how
I
would
think,
we assess the damages?
not us, I
and
think
what
if
would be
Lasky's have
considered-
damage, they're gonna be, it's gonna be what you can see.
And
You
that's,
know.
I'm concerned about that, because then we are in the middle of potential neighbor conflict.
Well,
And
we have neighbor conflict all the time, Kabir.
but we don't fan the flames of it. That's
Well,
all
I
I'm
don't think
saying.
we're fanning it. I think people are emotional when it comes to building. And I know that. And I remember I said to my architect, do not make my neighbors hate me. Okay? Those are my exact words. And I know this is a very emotional process when people are building and for the neighbors next door. And I think that we'll be okay here. Okay, I do.
Okay, is there further discussion on the amendment, Councilmember Rovak's amendment to the motion?
But yeah, a quick question for Shannon. So Shannon, your amendment is to make it, to actually say a smaller dumpster. That's Ron's option B, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's two sizes of dumpsters. It would be nice to see the smaller size dumpster on the
Smaller
property.
dumpster, but the rest stays, like the damages incurred by the applicant.
I just feel like, we kind of, I feel like we talked about it a lot with the heavy machinery, on the last town council meeting, and it was all agreed that there wasn't going to be this heavy machinery. And I did not understand that would include a dumpster. And so, I thought that now I'm understanding that the dumpster is considered heavy machinery. And so I feel like, for the neighbors' sake of, them kind of getting all of that stuff that was like, oh, we're not going to do this heavy machinery, that having at least a smaller dumpster will help alleviate, perhaps their concerns a little bit than this full-size dumpster that gets filled up and is, weighs a ton.
Thank you.
Okay, is there further discussion on Councilor Rovak's amendment? Hearing none, all those in favor? All those opposed?
Opposed.
So I'm sorry, the council failed. The amendment failed. So now we go back to the council member Heller's original motion. Is there further discussion on that? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Thank you. Thank you very much. Congratulations to the applicants. We will now go back to case number 2272AD. And I will, for the benefit of the applicants, I will read the instructions. Hold on 1 second. Okay, here we go. Today is July 5th, 2022. This is a hearing before the Town of Somerset Council for the building permit application 2272AD to consider approval of the construction of rear to the single-family home located at 5522 Uppingham Street. The owners of the property, Jeffrey Buteau and Amy Bonizzi, are represented by Michael P. Rouse of NPR Architecture, who has submitted the application on the applicant's behalf. This hearing is being audio recorded. We ask that all speakers speak one at a time, addressing the council when called upon, and to state their name and address for the record. The hearing will observe the following order. First, the town staff will present their findings and submit a report on the application. The applicant will then present the application. The council will then have the opportunity to ask questions of the applicant or staff relevant to the application. Then other interested parties will have the opportunity to ask questions of the applicant or present comments. The applicant will then, if necessary, have the opportunity for rebuttal testimony. Then the public comment period will be completed, the record closed. Then the council will deliberate and discuss the merits of the case, the findings of fact and conclusion. The council may make a motion on a permit decision. If there's an objection to the application's approval, the town attorney will be asked for a decision. If a permit is granted, the town manager will be asked to issue a permit. And we will now begin the hearing with the town staff's presentation of findings and reports. Mr. Town Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you to the applicants for their quick responsiveness and joining us this evening. The applicant is proposing to enclose a balcony in the rear of the property. That's the exterior work that requires a town permit. And the setbacks are well beyond the minimum requirements of the town code. And the actual area of disturbance is also quite small. It's only 67 square feet. And so well below the threshold that would require a drainage plan at the county level. The town arborists recommended tree protection for one of the trees closest to the construction, but which is not in the near vicinity of the area of the work that's happening. So with that, I will turn it over to Mr. Lohmeyer for his report.
I have nothing to add to what Matt said.
And Tolbert, Dr. Feather, I don't know if you would like to expound on the tree protection plan that
Yeah, I'm just protecting that one tree in back. It's a large tree, and sometimes, depending on who the contractor is, there's a sprawl of material and equipment around the yard, and that kind of just will keep that away from that tree in case that happens.
And that does conclude the staff report then, but.
Okay, thank you.
Answer questions.
So good evening, Mr. Rouse, Mr. Buteau, Ms. Bonizzi, have I pronounced it right? Now is your opportunity to briefly present your application or comment on the staff reports.
hoping our architect will step
I
in.
think
here.
he's muted. He's muted.
Could possibly be, let me see if I can,
Going to contact him.
I'm having, I am showing merge with video, so oh no, that's not right. Michael, I think maybe since you're dialed in, you might have to unmute yourself. I think it's *9 that unmutes you.
Matt is *6.
Stars, thanks. Thank you, Doug.
Here he
Can you hear
is.
me?
Yes, we
Yes,
can.
we
Sorry
got
about
you.
that.
Did you hear that now's your opportunity to either briefly present the application or comment on the reports?
Sure. I'll briefly comment. My name is Michael Rouse. I'm the principal architect at NPR Architecture, and I'm representing Amy and Jeff on their application. Briefly, the project is basically an interior renovation with the enclosure of the rear second floor balcony that exists. And there also is, which was not mentioned in the report, a small dormer addition on the front to gain a little bit of extra space there, but it's again in the plane of the existing dormer and needs the setback. That's basically the project.
Does that complete your comments?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you very much. Council President Circa. Council President Circa, do you have any questions?
No questions, thank you.
Councilmember Barr, do you have any questions?
Is there any increase in impermeable coverage of the yard with this particular plan?
There, Michael Rouse again, there is no increase in permeable coverage.
Thank you.
Councilmember Heller, do you have any questions?
I just wonder if there shouldn't be some drainage kinds of stuff going on there, even though it's just a little bit. But other houses seem to be doing that with the rain barrels and whatever. And I wonder if this is considered at all. I know it's a pretty decent, deep backyard, but I don't know what it looks like. I have to say that your house was the first house I ever stepped foot inside Somerset. I knew the owner quite well. She was really part of my faux family. So I've watched your house change, and it's with a smile, but it's always like, wow, that was the house. So I know you have a deep backyard, but we're very concerned about drainage in the neighborhood. So I'm just wondering if there's any plans, if you can put any plans together for, rain barrels or whatever it is. I am not good with this stuff, but I bet your architect is. So.
Yeah, I'd be happy to respond to that. This is Michael Rouse again. Because the existing roof is remaining and the drainage is not being increased with the work that we're proposing, we did not have to explore through county code. If the owners wish to explore that kind of an option, I did not review it with them. But from just a simple code standpoint, we're not required to do it. And I don't believe that the owners have encountered any ill drainage or anything since they've owned the house.
All right, I'll leave Robin to think about this.
Councilor Heller, did you want to ask the applicants, the owners, the same question?
Oh, I thought I did. I thought that was.
Well, but Mr. Rouse answered, perhaps the owners want to answer.
I think he was answering for them. Am I correct? Yeah.
That's correct.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
Hey, Mike,
No,
no,
They heard. So the owners don't want to add anything to that answer. Okay, thank you. Is that, are you done, Councilor Heller?
Yes, I am. Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you. Councilmember Kumar.
I don't have any questions for the applicants, just to welcome them to the neighborhood and look forward to seeing them at the newcomers party.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Rovak, do you have any questions?
I have no questions.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Town Manager, has any resident or guest indicated they wish to
No, no comments or questions from.
Okay, so in this case, given there seems to be little controversy, council, you're prepared to make a motion.
I can do it.
Thank you, Kabir.
Motion to approve building permit application for 5522 Uppingham Street for the construction of a rear addition to the existing home. Does that work, Ron?
Yes, it does.
Okay, thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
I saw Councilor Rovak. Is there discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, thank you very much. Congratulations. We will now turn to the building administrator's report. Mr. Lohmeyer.
Just a couple things to go over. At 4900 Cumberland Avenue, they'd applied for a permit to add an addition on the left side of the house. The town issued a permit in December 27th, but they haven't begun the work on that project yet. At 5405 Greystone, they've completed that work, and the town is in the process of closing that building permit. At 5506 Trent, council approved the permit in April. We issued the building permit in May. We had a pre-construction meeting last week, and the contractor will begin installing the sediment control devices this week and begin demolition of the existing house probably next week or the week after. That concludes my report.
Thank you. Council President Circo, do you have any questions?
Yes, it's not on the report, but maybe you can still address it, Doug. The fence that was installed at 5402 Greystone Street without the appropriate permit, is there an update on the status of that fence to be removed, or has a permit application been filed?
I
Or the town manager?
and that may be something that we should possibly discuss in closed session.
Okay, so that's an ongoing issue.
Yes.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Barr.
No questions on this one.
Thank you. Councilor Heller.
No questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Kumar.
None. Thank you.
Councilor Rovak.
No questions.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Doug. Council President Circo, regarding your question, let's talk about it at our meeting next week, and we perhaps will discuss it at the work session on July 18th.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We will now turn to the next item. Public hearing motion to consider approval of the removal of 3 tulip poplar trees in Vinton Park abutting the property located at 5522 Warwick Place as recommended by the town arborist, Dr. Feather.
Thank you, Jeffrey. So this property and the trees have a history that dates back to let's see, 2012. I don't know, it's at the end of Warwick Place, across from the creek, and there's a hillside to the south that's treed, and the trees are right at the edge of the hillside overhanging the house. And there have been damage to the roof through several owners through the years. I think in 2019, after a new owner moved in and had some damage right away, we proposed to the council to take down 4 trees to alleviate the problem. And the council decided that, and I agreed to look at these more closely, monitor them more closely and prune them more closely, to try to alleviate any hazards. that occur in the tree. So we did that for a couple of years, and this year I noted in February there was dead wood in the trees, and I put it on a sheet for the contractor. And then there was weather problems, and then there was scheduling problems, and the trees didn't get pruned till the end of March, towards the end of March. And in the interim, there was another big branch that fell and damaged the roof. So I'm again coming back, and with the owner's very concerned. And I'm sure the insurance company eventually is going to be very concerned.
Well, Dr. Feather, isn't it true that the owners at 5522 have put the town on notice that the trees are a risk, and such that the liability, if those trees fall in that house, the town is responsible? Is that not correct?
Yeah, you have to ask Ron and Matt. I'm just handling it.
Mr. Town Manager, haven't we received a notice from 5522?
Yes, they have in not so many words said, that this tree continues to be an issue for them, and that they hold the town responsible for any future damage.
And the town attorney can review the law. If we are put on notice of a tree that is a liability, that transfers the liability, the responsibility to us, correct, Mr. Town Attorney?
Correct, Mr. Mayor. Assuming that the notice is accurate and that the tree is a risk, based on the arborist report, I would recommend removing these trees.
Now, potentially complicating things, and Tolbert, I apologize for kind of putting you on the spot because we haven't had a chance to talk about it yet, but I don't know if you saw that today the residents emailed us and actually said that they would like us to wait until August to remove the trees.
I asked last night, I emailed him for a response. So we can, well, I don't know that's something internal there.
Well,
So-
I'm not sure. I'm not sure that let's ask the town attorney, because if they've given us notice, and if they want to wait till August, if the tree falls on their house, we're responsible.
Yeah, I would recommend against waiting because the trees could also fall into the right of way.
So we can't, one of our responsibilities is to limit liability on behalf of the town. And we can't, okay, I'm sorry. Dr. Feather, did you have I think you had another tree removal you wanted to add?
But on this, well, we can go ahead and do this one first.
Okay.
Do you want to do them all together, or?
Let's
I'm recommending these be removed. I don't think we can maintain them like they need to be maintained. I don't know what else to do there. And I think there's only 3 that need to be removed. I had 4 on the first, but the 4th one is back in the backyard, and we can just keep that one trimmed. It's not over the house.
Okay, but I thought you wanted to add some more trees.
Yes, I do.
Okay, why don't you report on that now?
Okay, I have a pin oak at next to that, or up this block from that, 5604 Warwick Place, that is half dead and has a lot of dead branches, and that one's ready to be taken out. There's a dead ash at 4722 Dorset. There's a sugar maple 5-inch at 4800 Grantham on Surrey that's dead, and a flowering cherry 4-inch at 4809 Fallstone that's dead. So let me just mention, on these large trees that are coming down, these trees are of an age now that they're not thriving like they're street trees. So they're not expected to live forever. And we need to take them down as they become dangerous. So I think there's 2 large ones on Warwick that we're talking about the past 2 months. But that's just the nature of the age of these trees. And we're going to replant, and 50 or 80 years from now, there'll be big trees there again.
Okay, thank you. Council President Circo, do you have any questions?
No questions, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Barr.
Well, I'll just ask Tolbert, I mean, we removed the 3 poplar trees from 5622 Warwick area in Vincent Park. What's going to grow there? It's going to be more poplar trees, right? That's going to happen. Yeah.
Yeah, that probably will happen. I mean, we can keep them away from the edge. There's actually a lot of growth in back of those trees now that are away from the house that will probably do better now that there's more light.
So there isn't another villain waiting in the wings. Is that what?
No, and then we could keep an eye on that. But I think what's going to happen is the trees into the woods will kind of take over the site and shade everything, and then the edge trees probably won't be tulip poplars or large trees.
All right, thanks.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Heller, do you have any questions?
No, thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Kumar.
Yes. I think you partially answered one of my questions, Doc Feather. Originally you had proposed 4 trees going back to 2019.
Yes.
Proposing 3 now because the 4th one is not sort of, the likelihood of it harming the home.
Yeah, it's not. I mean, if it fell into the home completely, it would. But I mean, the branching is not over the home; it's over the yard.
But is it as in danger as the other 3 trees? Is it at the same?
No. I've changed my mind on that one.
You've changed your okay.
Yeah.
But wait a minute. Hold on one second. But did the owner give notice on that 4th tree?
That I don't know. We've been discussing with him these 3 trees the past 2 weeks. So
Matt, do you know that?
I was just trying to pull up their original email here.
Okay, while he's doing that, Dr. Feather, what is the threshold then? Because you described over multiple years branches falling, and then you described that you had found dead wood. At what stage do you kind of escalate? Because partly you found dead wood, but also we are facing this notice from the residents. Is there a way for us to, so I'm wondering what's your threshold? And then related to that, I'm wondering, is there a way for us to establish a threshold that doesn't get us to this point?
Yeah, well, as you know, there's lots of trees in forested land that the town owns that's near houses. So it's these out of all of the town, I mean, these have been a problem consistently. And I think it's just it may be position too. I mean, they're on a hill as well as growing tall. So
well, and maybe this goes to Matt, I would encourage you to establish a clear threshold. I would love to bring this back in a work session, because we don't want to be in a position where we are facing liability.
Except with there is no liability unless someone has pointed it out.
I know, but we have the ability to be ahead of that, frankly.
Well, but there's so many, that's something that can be discussed during the budget season, because, there's a lot there. So our parkland, we do, in my opinion, we don't have enough resources to take care of the parkland the way we should.
Okay, that's a good.
In terms of limiting liability, and we don't have anything in the budget. I mean, it would be great if we could do a survey of the parkland, but we don't have that in the budget, but
Okay,
anyway.
but I appreciate that. I think I
But
would.
I
support a
understand,
survey.
I understand.
And then just to clarify, I got a little confused. Why are the homeowners now saying wait until August?
I have no idea.
So the resident said that, I could read you the actual email. Well, I won't speculate it, I guess. But
I can speculate too, but I won't.
Well, please speculate now.
Maybe offline.
I think perhaps one person in the house wants one thing to happen and another person in the house has a different opinion.
But both want the trees removed.
Correct. So
Okay, that's all I needed to hear. That's all. Thank you.
the email was, we haven't had a chance to flesh out recommendations. One of the neighbors, one of the residents has some concerns and would like to understand more about the health of the trees closest to us in the forest.
Got it. Now, you added on Jeffrey's request other trees. Dr. Feather, could you just repeat the locations of those?
Yes. They're at 5604 Warwick Place, 4722 Dorset, 4800 Grantham, and 4809 Fallstone.
Okay, and you know the question I'm going to ask.
Go shoot away.
We have
not
contacted the neighbor. These
No,
were late
we
additions.
have not.
We haven't.
But before we, three of them are completely dead. But I do post them and we will contact. That's the policy Matt and I've talked about now.
So Matt, you recommend moving forward with these additional 4, even if we haven't contacted, because you're most likely the residents are in support of this, given that they are in a bad state.
I would suspect so. I defer to Dr. Feather's expertise on it, and yeah, I would say if they're dead or dying, then it's more or less an emergency that probably is best not waiting.
Thank you, Jeffrey.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Rovak, do you have any questions?
No, I don't have any questions, but I just, maybe for a future work session, we can discuss it. But I think that if the trees are dead, it could be maybe a consent item. Because I'm certainly not in a position where I'm going to tell Dr. Feather that, no, the tree is alive. I saw a green leaf on it. So just for the sake of time in the future, maybe something we could look at.
Except I think that the code requires a hearing. You can't be on it. Isn't that correct, Mr. Town Attorney? But that's something we can talk about in terms of changing the code. But right now, we can't put it on a consent agenda.
Okay, well, I have no questions.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Town Manager, are there any comments or questions from our residents or guests?
No, other than the email back and forth that we had referenced before.
Okay, thank you. Council, are you prepared to make a motion?
I can make a motion.
Go for it.
Motion to approve removal of 3 tulip poplar trees in Winton Park abutting 5522 Warwick Place, and 4 additional trees at 5604 Warwick, 4722 Dorset, 4800 Grantham, 4809 Fallstone.
Okay, thank you. Is there a second? Oh,
Ron,
I saw.
Did you say 3 or 4 tulip poplars?
I said 3 and then I said 4 additional.
Okay, yeah, I would recommend all 4 because Tolbert has deemed all 4 a hazard in his report.
Okay, so let me revise that. Sorry. So motion to approve removal of 4 tulip poplar trees in Winton Park abutting 5522 Warwick Place, and 4 additional trees in town: 5604 Warwick, 4722 Dorset, 4800 Grantham, 4809 Falston.
Thank you.
And I think Council President Circo seconded that. Is there discussion?
I think Tolbert said he had changed his mind on the fourth one, so that he thought only 3 needed removing.
Yeah, I don't, Ron, I don't know legally if that's, I mean, there's 2 reports floating around. One was in
I rather
2008.
follow Ron's advice on this one, Rob.
Yeah, okay.
I think it's better to give them the authority.
Yes.
That's why the town attorney, because we don't want to, yeah. Okay, is there further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed, thank you. The
Thank
next
you.
item- Thank you, Dr. Feather. The next item is to consider adoption of a town policy on serving in outside organizations. Mr. Town Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I noted for the council that this was discussed at the most recent work session. One thing I omitted was a list of the actual outside organizations that the town either is currently represented in or has a right to representation in those organizations' bylaws. I did throw those on there at the last minute for the council, but I'm happy to run through them if that's helpful. I don't know if that's a waste of time, but there are currently 9 organizations in essence that Somerset has some representation on, or right to representation. And this just establishes some basic guidelines. There were a couple of notes that came out of the work session, and Ron wasn't able to join us at the work session, so the council might want to just flesh out those, and Ron could maybe speak to how easily those additions could be made. Since it's a resolution, it can technically be introduced and adopted in the same meeting, but the council could also decide to introduce it with amendments and adopt it after giving the public an opportunity to see kind of the final version as an option.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Town Attorney, did you want to add anything?
No, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Council President Circo, do you have any questions?
Sorry, no questions. I'm glad we're at this point. Thank you.
Thank you, Council Member Barr.
Are we ready to vote on it yet? That's really what because there were so many issues brought up at the work session, so that reporting to council versus reporting to a committee was one. The issue of would minutes suffice for a report is another. These things are not fleshed out in the ordinance. I was beginning to wonder whether we want actually a more general ordinance that says that people should report regularly, and then have a process which describes the expectations for a report that is not in the ordinance. It's just, do we really want to approve it just now with these things still floating is really what I'm saying.
Okay, so that's something that you can debate, but did you want to ask any questions specifically or?
Well, it's a comment. I don't think it's ready for a vote yet, is my comment.
Okay, because I remember one thing you said was that you might want to offer amendments, and it could be introduced the way you amended tonight too, but okay, thank you. Councilor Heller, do you have any questions?
No, thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Kumar. Councilor Kumar.
No questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Rovak. Do you have any questions?
No, I don't have any questions. I think that, with Robin's suggestion, maybe it should be, or I don't know, I want to make it not hard for these people to go and serve with these organizations. I want to make it a good experience for them. And, so that they don't feel like, oh, I've got to like go back and do blah, 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 every single time. Like, if we can make it in a way where we just take an email or, I'm not sure how to kind of follow up with all of this, but I think that, we want to, it's very positive that our residents want to be involved with, these outside organizations, and it would be great for us to hear more information back from them. But, just not making it so taxing.
Okay, one thing I want to point out is that, each organization has different sort of requirements, and that's why the town attorney drafted something sort of generic. But one of the purposes of this, for example, was to have a policy in place regarding our membership in the Maryland Municipal League. And that involves the mayor and council, not someone that we might appoint. So while I would understand if you're not prepared to approve something tonight, I do hope that you will approve something in the near future that at least addresses the organizations that we belong to and that the mayor and council serve as the representatives. For example, in the coordinating committee and our representative to the Montgomery Municipal Channel and such. So that's.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if this is vague enough, then I'm okay with approving.
I mean, the purpose of this is meant to give us some guidance and policies instead of what we have now, which is nothing.
Right.
And for example, and I know this is something that the Councilmember Kumar was very interested in. I don't think that, other towns have a policy in terms of making decisions at the Maryland Municipal League on legislation and on voting for leadership. And I think we need to have guidance for that. The same with the coordinating committee, that we have a membership. Some of these are different. We don't have, the Bethesda Fire Department, we don't have a membership. We just have and this isn't even clear yet, that because their bylaws are need to be clarified, and we've written a letter asking for clarification. But there, we just send a rep there, but we don't have membership in Bethesda Fire Department. Maryland Municipal League, we pay a huge membership fee each year, and I think that there should be policies in place in terms of how the mayor and council make decisions. Okay, thank you. So Councilor Kumar, did you want to say anything more?
Yeah, I wanted to respond to what Shannon was observing, that as drafted now, I believe it is sort of at a high level and general. And I think that the folks that are already participating and representing us, I don't think this should it shouldn't make their lives harder. And I think in instances where we don't have visibility in what's going on, it should bring visibility. So it doesn't make things worse for those who are already doing this, and makes things better where there are gaps. And like with a number of things like the procurement policy, it's always good to get a start, and then we can get better at it with lived practice.
I agree. Yeah.
Mr. Town Manager, are there any comments or questions from our residents or guests?
No, not at this time.
Okay, so I'm going to turn it over to the council president to lead the discussion.
So I want to thank everyone for your thoughtful comments and inputs. I think there are a number of excellent points about the readiness of this document and also, I guess, the value of getting something approved to provide some framework, and we can improve it as we move forward. My preference would be to make a few very minor corrections or updates to this document and approve it as a starting point. The two suggestions I have are in the resolved sections. The third resolved says, in the last sentence of third resolved, non-substantive issues such as the approval of meetings or other administrative matters. I think that should read meeting minutes. I think that needs to be corrected. And in the interest of minimizing or simplifying the directions to our fellow neighbors who serve on these outside boards, I would remove the part of the sentence in the second resolved that states, but no less than the frequency equal to the regular meeting schedule of the outside organization. I think we can just agree to the reporting schedule. I could imagine there might be an agency that meets monthly, but a person's going to be on vacation or something, and just maybe we can just get a quarterly report. I just don't think we need to define it that specific in this document. Those are my thoughts. Let's go around. Kabir.
I'm fine with those edits.
Great. Any other thoughts, comments? You look very thoughtful.
Do we want to say?
He muted.
Is Kabir saying something? I didn't.
No. I said I'm in support of your edits.
Okay, thank you. Robin?
Want to give guidance on whether the reporting is to council or to a relevant committee?
I think we can. Where does it specify?
In the second resolve, it says to report to the town council.
We just add or a relevant committee.
Yes, I'd agree. Shall keep the town council or relevant committee informed about the actions and activities. Yes.
Okay.
Thank you, Robin. Let's go around, see if anybody else has any issues with these minor changes or has any other recommendations. Debbie?
No, I'm good with it the way it is. Thank you.
The way it is.
Wait, with your edits. Your edits.
Perfect.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Shannon?
I'm good with the edits.
Great, thank you. So I think we're set.
So
Need a
are you
motion
very,
that-
did you want to make a motion or?
Yes. Let me for this. I move that we adopt that that the town council adopt a town policy on serving outside organizations with the
That's
three edits discussed this evening, being the addition of the words or committees after shall keep the town council informed about the actions, the removal of the line, but no less than the frequency equal to the regular meeting schedule of the outside organizations, and correction of meetings to minutes in the third resolved.
Second.
Bit of a mouthful.
Is there
Thank you.
discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed. Thank you very much. Good job. And remember, everybody, that can be amended at any time. And our final item tonight is our town manager's report.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. The fiscal report is the final fiscal report for FY22, but just as a word of caution, I guess, just that occasionally we get billed slightly after the new year starts for work that was performed, and so there's still a little bit of massaging of those numbers over the next couple of weeks before we kind of land on what our final audited numbers are. I have begun working with the auditors to make sure everything's lining up and that we have the relevant documents available, things like that. So that'll really kick into high gear now that we have our final bank statements for the new fiscal year available, things like that. And then they'll make small tweaks probably at the end of this month as they correct some of those things that I had just mentioned. There's a couple of RFPs that I've been working on or that are moving on to the next step in the process. One is the snow removal RFP. As we discussed several months ago, I guess, our snow removal contract is up, and so have to go back out to bid, and just added some language related to environmentally conscious practices and the equity practices that we had included and discussed in our procurement policy discussions. The other RFP that I'm working on right now is for the roadway master plan that we're going to try to put together. I've requested from MML some examples that they might have to help use as templates and or points of reference, especially for smaller municipalities like us. I also had talked to Doug a little bit about this. He had put together some recommendations several years ago, actually, based on his observations in the field of streets that we might prioritize and ways that we might think about it. So we do have somebody kind of on staff that can be used as another set of eyes for that project. I've been making some slow but steady progress on the street light replacement. I was able to get in touch with somebody who has been able to provide me with some of the missing information, and I'm actually set to meet with him and a small team on Friday. He also informed me that in section 3, they had a demo light of one of the ones that we would potentially be looking at. So I was going to go swing over there, and it turns out that they are at the temperature that we would be looking for in a residential area. So that was really good news. So I've sent them over the location of the lights, and one of the things we're going to discuss Friday is adding some new poles as well to some of the locations where we might have a little bit of a gap, because there still are a few of those that will hopefully tie the whole project together, and from a safety perspective especially. A couple things on the town pool. One is Linda, credit to Linda, because she took the lead on upgrading security at the town pool, and also actually at the town hall as well. We were having early in the summer, once the weather started to turn, we had some rascals that had jumped over the fence, and I think we're having a little bit of a good time, not causing any damage, but potential liability issue. And the last thing we would want is somebody who is face down in the pool the next day. So we've got new cameras up there, a new security monitoring system. Also still exploring some ways that we can continue to improve that, but I think we're in a much better place. I have signed off on the construction work, And I also signed off on replacing the ADA chairlift this afternoon. It's been out of commission basically the whole summer, and they've tried 2 or 3 different ways to fix it. Finally, just realized we need to replace the whole thing. And the last thing is we had talked about doing inventory of the machinery and the infrastructure at the pool prior to the actual pool deck repairs work happening, so that just in case there was anything in the piping or whatever, we could take care of that while we're down there, but also helping us budget in years ahead what equipment and how often it might need to be replaced or repaired at the pool. So I've been talking with American Pool about that, and should have something set up before the summer's over. I have some other notes, but I did include them in a short little report to you. The last thing I added kind of late to the game is just the mayor and I have been talking about us participating in this night out program in Montgomery County, which just promotes community policing and introducing the police to the communities that they serve. Just a little something, get it off the ground this year, and perhaps work with the public safety committee a little bit and then evaluate it. And we have a heads up for next year to do some more robust planning around it. But other than that, I'm happy to take questions.
Okay, thank you. Council President Circo, do you have any questions?
No questions. Thanks for the updates. Appreciate the progress in a number of areas.
Thank you. Council Member Barr.
Yeah, on the budget, you show that our tax revenues in this report are only 85% of what we estimated they would be. Is that really the final, or is the June payment not included in those numbers?
Yeah, the June numbers had not been reported when I ran the report. So I think we did get those maybe on Friday, and I didn't have a chance to input those before. They usually basically they send us the report the last Friday of the month. But then it also doesn't show up in our actual bank account for a week or so later. So it just hadn't showed up yet. I can send you a quick email either tonight or tomorrow that gives you that final number if you'd like.
I'd appreciate it. Yeah.
Yep.
And if you want any help talking to Pepco, then I'll offer my services if you need them.
Okay, sounds good.
Thank you. Councilmember Heller, do you have any questions?
No, thank you though, Matt.
Thank you. Councilmember Kumar.
Matt, congratulations on hitting it hard in the first week of the fiscal year. So appreciate that.
Yeah.
On all fronts. On the sort of final numbers, I'm wondering if we need to do a council session, or it would be good to sort of have a dedicated session where we do a look back prior to the budget season. And I don't know when that makes sense, even if it's in a summative way where you sort of say, this is where we ended up on the numbers, this was what we projected, this is where we ended up, this is where we overspend, this is where we underspend. I would welcome that kind of an analysis, and I think the rest of the council would too. And then it would be great if it's well in advance of the budget season. So just wanted to flag that for you.
Yeah,
it's a lot harder. It's a lot easier for us to have it done that way than.
I think what we can target is in the October-November timeframe when the audit is wrapped up. We can have the auditors, give a robust presentation for you that goes through it. If
we didn't do that last year, if I remember.
No, we didn't. Yeah.
I think that would be great. I think that would be great if we can pull that off. Then I had a question on the snow removal RFP. Is that the only multi-year contract we award?
No, we don't. No, most of our contracts we do. The structure we've done is a 3-year contract and then 2 or 3 option years after that.
American
this-
Pool is the same way. Any other
Trash.
leaf
Trash,
vacuuming,
bulk.
the trash contract.
And they renew at different stages. They renew because the cycle was all different for all of them.
Yeah, exactly. We don't do all of our contracts starting day 1 of fiscal year, for example.
Great. Okay. Thank you for that. And thanks again for pushing on all these fronts.
Okay, thank you. Last but not least, Councilmember Rovak, do you have any questions?
Yeah, I have a couple questions about the lighting meeting. So are we, so that's to look at like the specific lights, like that we would be then replacing all of the street lights with that specific LED bulb?
Yeah, so I think where we've landed is, in order to get the work done as expeditiously as possible, and what makes sense logistically for us is to use what Pepco has in stock. I can get into details with you offline about the various reasons why that makes the most sense, but this is meeting with them to figure out what the exact specifications are of those lights, so we can better understand that. It's exchanging information on the location of street lights, and then trying to figure out what the process for the installation looks like on their end, whether we're able to pay them to do the entire work, if we're going to have to take it street by street, for example, things like that.
Oh, the Chevy Chase
Fireworks,
Club.
I guess.
The Chevy Chase Club fireworks just started.
July
everyone.
5th, that was when they were scheduled, yep.
Okay, well, so because do they have someone then that will be able to like kind of provide like an overview of the plan that we can look at in terms of like where we need to add the street lights, where we need to like maybe trim down branches because the street light doesn't angle on the sidewalk correctly? And do they have people that are going to be kind of consulting us as part of their work?
So yes and no. Yes, part of the challenge so far has been connecting with the right person that can be kind of our dedicated project manager for it. And I think I've finally been able to make some headway in that respect. In terms of a sophisticated lighting analysis, we do have that option. That would be something that we would probably pay for in addition to just the installation itself, and not use Pepco, but use someone else. But that's kind of one of the unanswered questions that I still have as well, is when they're making the replacements like this, is the light distribution the same? Are we getting the same light distribution on a mercury vapor light as we are with these new LED street lights? Or is there some change?
Okay, because then I know that at least it's a big topic for the Public Safety Committee, and I know it's a big topic for other committees as well. And just to, kind of elicit some comments and some, discussion points from each of the committees that are, kind of intrigued by this, could be something that, we should maybe start to get. And I don't know how that process would work, but I know that, the funds are going to be over soon, and, with the Pepco's timeframe, so we definitely need to start working on it, quickly and to get.
So maybe we'll put that on the work session.
Yeah. And then my only other question was for the security monitoring system that is at the pool. So who monitors that then?
It records in the cloud. So I don't recall, Linda is still on. I don't mean to put you on the spot, Linda. You might know the details about how long it's kept or not. The idea is basically we set up a cameras kind of at the points where we found evidence that people were hopping the fence, for example. And so we would have a timestamp of when it happened, so we could notify the police it's happening between these hours. And then if it became a real issue, to say these are the people that are doing it.
But do we know, I mean, unless someone watches the video, they wouldn't know if it happened, right? Unless we saw trash at the pool and then you go.
Yeah,
back.
they're not exactly. They're not
It's
motion,
asynchronous.
they're not motion censored lights. One of the things that we did discuss was putting a motion sensor in the water of the pool, just in case somebody jumped in the pool overnight. But there were some logistical issues that were just a little bit, frankly, beyond, I think, what we needed in terms of motion censoring on the pool deck, that I didn't want every time a squirrel ran across to get some notification that there's activity at the town pool. And sure that, yeah, sorry.
Can I jump in here? Shannon, what was going on is that there'd be parties there at the pool. They come in the next morning and there'd be glass, like bottles around, and beer bottles. And, all we have to do is get one broken glass, and then, we gotta, I think, do we have to drain the pool?
Yeah. It's a
Yeah.
huge deal. Yeah.
And so it's clearly a bunch of kids. They were probably hopping the fence. And so there was concern, maybe it was somebody from last year and they could have had the code to get in. I did suggest changing the code. I thought that was a pretty simple suggestion. So hopefully this will be a good deterrent and we'll be ahead of the game. So
Well,
thank you.
And just
your question.
add on to that very quickly, because we did end up calling the police, and the police did kind of catch them once or twice of, hey,
really?
So, and that's really all it took, but we were playing a little bit of a guessing game that try to come by right when they're closing up, and then try to come by, I think it was between 11 and 2 o'clock in the morning, because that's when somebody at Somerset House said they heard somebody. So this allowed us to, it's less deterrence, and the police are helping us with deterrence because they're doing a little bit more of coverage around there.
Is that like our personal officer, or is that just Montgomery Police?
Our police did one time, but in general, I just reported it to District 2, and they've added patrols there.
And just one quickly, I don't know if Linda wants to expand on this, but Shannon, to your question on the cameras, I think that what has been installed is a marked improvement from what was there before. So even though it is post facto and asynchronous, it is now being recorded. I think previously there were some challenges.
Yes, that's
is that
true.
right? Yes.
That's true. It stays in the cloud for 14 days. I actually have it on my phone, so I can actually look at the cameras right now that are in both the town hall and at the pool. And once Matt sets up his account, he'll be able to do the same thing. So if the alarm goes off, I can always check. People were actually kind of coming over the fence. I actually walked back there one day with the security guy and found out where the kids were partying and how they were accessing, kind of coming over the fence. And I know that's something else that Matt has looked at, is us trying to kind of doing something with a certain part of the fence to keep them. I spoke with Helen just today, and she said she hasn't seen any activity of anybody. So either because summer has started, maybe the parents have sent them away, or maybe threats have been made to kids or something. I don't know, but she says she hasn't seen any activity lately of kids climbing over, which is a good thing.
And
Or they clean up better?
Well, one last thing. Yeah, one last thing to add. Go ahead, Linda.
No, that's it. I was just saying, yeah, or they clean up better, maybe. I don't know. Back there where they were having their party, it was a whole big mess back there.
This one last thing to add. I know we're saying kids, but apparently it was a range of folks, including a couple of lifeguards from another pool facility.
Correct.
And so it turns out that calling the police, John Alcott, our officer, showing up once, added up. is the current sort of analysis of this that it sort of has done. And now we've added all of these measures that I think should at least allow us to respond faster, more intelligently. But I was telling Matt that walkway by the pool might be something, I don't know, Debbie, we should talk about that. The path that's right there by the bike racks seems to be an easy access point and seems dangerous to walk on. So, but anyway, we can pick that up separately.
The
But
Marty
thanks to
Shaw
Linda
path.
for doing this. Sorry, Jeffrey?
The Marty Shaw path.
Not the Marty Shaw.
No,
path.
not the Marty
Not the
Shaw
The
Marty
Marty
path.
Shaw path is great, yeah.
Okay.
The non-path path, that sort of makeshift path that exists there. But anyway,
Goes along
thanks.
the creek
Okay,
that goes along the
Councilor
creek there.
Rovak, did you have any further questions?
No, my dog is just scared from the fireworks.
Okay. All right, everyone. So before we adjourn, we'll see you next Monday, 5:30, I mean, the 18th, excuse
July
me.
18th, yeah.
The 18th, and early voting starts tomorrow, so make sure you all vote.
The 7th.
Oh, right, the 7th. No, it's not the 6th, right? Is there a motion to adjourn?
Oh, movie, we adjourn.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Thank you all.
Bye. Take
you.
care.
All very much.
Thanks,
Have a good
everybody.
day.